Welcome to the Cenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
If you're one of the millions of people juggling remote work, staring at a screen trying to find that deep work zone while your phone is buzzing nonstop, then you know this feeling. It's what we're calling the modern focus crisis. The pressure for just steady, sustained concentration is higher than ever, and we're all fighting against these digital interruptions and this constant mental fatigue that just kills you by 3 p.m.
It's relentless. And we always say that the foundations, sleep, nutrition, exercise, they're completely non-negotiable. But the reality is a lot of people still need some targeted support just to keep their head above water, and that's why they turn to supplements. So our mission today is really to cut through all that noise. We are unpacking the newest trends and, more importantly, the most effective clinically dosed supplements that actually support your brain's pathways for alertness, memory, and just mental energy.
Okay, let's do this. We are deep diving into a full guide on modern focus stacks for 2025. Our source material is huge. It covers, everything from basic vitamins and adaptogens to really specific nootropics and those, classic caffeine combos. We're looking at what's driving the conversation, and there's this big trend towards both the quick stimulant blends and stimulant-free options. The goal is for you to walk away knowing how to build a stack that actually works for you. So before we get into the really fancy compounds, let's start at the beginning. Why even turn to supplements for focus in the first place? We all know we should sleep more, but what specific barriers are these things designed to fix that a good night's sleep just won't?
That's the key question. It really comes down to targeted gaps that modern life just makes so much worse. The focus barriers we're seeing now are sort of triple-pronged. First, you have fragmented attention from just, constant digital noise. Second is that chronic low-level stress that just burns out your stamina.
Oh, now that feeling.
And third, there are actual nutritional gaps that even with a pretty good diet often aren't optimized for your brain to function at its peak. So supplements, when you use them right, they target these specific biochemical pathways. And what's really fascinating here is that the first step isn't about some immediate jolt of energy. You have to really separate the acute boosters, the things that work right now, from the long-term resilience builders. The ones that keep your brain working at its best months, even years down the line. You need both sides of that coin.
That makes perfect sense. So let's start with that base layer then.
Yeah.
The absolute fundamentals everyone should have down before even thinking about the heavy hitters. What's the foundational stack?
We immediately look at two things: B vitamins and omega-3s. The B vitamins, and we're talking specifically about B6, B9, and B12, are just essential. They're cofactors, which means they help your brain do things like synthesize neurotransmitters and manage cellular energy. They're the maintenance crew.
Okay, but when you look at the B complex aisle in the store, it's overwhelming. Is there a specific form of, say, B12 that we should be looking for?
Yes, absolutely. If you want targeted B12 support, you need to look for methylcobalamin. It's the highly bioavailable form. A lot of cheaper supplements use something called cyanocobalamin, but methylcobalamin is already active, ready to go, which is so much better for your nervous system. The dose you're looking for is pretty substantial, usually somewhere between 250 to 1,000 micrograms daily.
And it's not about feeling a buzz from that, right?
No, not at all. It's about making sure your brain has the fuel it needs to maintain high output day after day.
Okay, and what about omega-3s? We always hear about them for heart health, but how does that translate to better focus?
So omega-3s, specifically EPA and DHA, are absolutely foundational for long-term brain health and even mood stability. Think of your brain's neurons, all millions of them. These fatty acids help maintain the fluidity and the structure of their membranes.
So they're kind of like the high-grade oil that keeps the whole machine running smoothly.
Precisely. They support synaptic signaling, the actual speed of communication between your brain cells, and they help lower that low-level inflammation that can really mess with your concentration and mood. So they're not a quick hit. But if you want your brain to just work better all year round, they are essential. Your dose target should be around 500 to 1,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA daily.
All right, so we've laid the groundwork. We have the essentials now. Now we get strategic. Let's talk about the ingredients that need commitment. the ones that pay off over weeks or months, not just in the next hour.
Exactly. This is where we're talking about optimizing the actual machinery of your brain, not just, patching over energy gaps. This is for long-term clarity and resilience. And the first giant here is Bacopa monnieri. It's famous from memory and sustained attention. But here's the crucial detail that makes a lot of people give up on it. The benefits usually only appear after 8 to 12 weeks of consistent use.
Whoa, wait. 8 to 12 weeks? That's a long time to wait for a result.
It is. You have to commit to it like a training program. And in today's world of instant gratification, that's a tough sell.
Yeah, if I don't feel anything after a week, I'm probably quitting. So what should someone look for on the label? And why on earth does it take so long to work?
You want to look for extracts standardized to baicosides. Those are the active compounds. A good trial dose is about 300 milligrams a day of an extract with 20% baicosides. And the reason it takes so long is that Bacopa is actually causing physical changes. It supports the growth of dendrites, the little branches on your neurons. That kind of structural change just doesn't happen overnight.
That's incredible. Okay, so what's the other big long-term player?
That would be lion's mane mushroom. This one is really noted for promoting something called nerve growth factor, or NGF, activity.
NGF.
Yeah.
Sounds important. What does promoting it actually feel like to an average person?
Think of NGF as your brain's internal repair and maintenance screw. It helps with neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to reorganize itself and form new connections. So over a few months, increasing NGF activity just translates into this feeling of improved clarity. Sharper thinking, like Bacopa, you have to stick with it. The dose is usually 500 to 1,000 milligrams a day, often split into 2.
All right, so that covers our baseline health and the long-term builders. Now let's shift gears. Let's talk about the immediate tools. What about the ingredients you can take for an acute task, like a huge presentation, or just for managing that daily stress right now?
For that, we start with citicoline, which is often sold under the brand name Cognizin. It's a fantastic acute compound because it's directly related to brain energy metabolism. It supports the building blocks of your cell walls and actively raises energy markers in the brain.
Okay, hold on. Raises brain energy markers. Break that down for me. What does that actually feel like for someone listening?
It feels like efficiency. People report sharper attention, better focus on complex tasks, and faster mental recovery after a period of really deep work. It's like putting premium fuel in the tank for your brain. The common dose is about 250 to 500 milligrams daily. And you should look for Cognizin, or citicoline, listed clearly by dose on the label.
That sounds like exactly what you'd need for that 3 p.m. wall. But sometimes the problem isn't low energy, it's high stress, right? You're jittery. Throwing caffeine at that problem seems like it would just make it worse. So this is where adaptogens come in.
That's a critical distinction. A stimulant like caffeine forces alertness by, hitting the central nervous system. Adaptogens don't do that. They don't generate energy. They help your body adapt to and resist stress. They kind of normalize your systems.
Okay, so they're managing the stress so you can focus, not creating focus directly.
Exactly. 2 major players here. First is rhodiola rosea, which is great for reducing that feeling of fatigue when you're under stress. A good dose is 400 milligrams of a standardized extract. It's amazing for those long days of mental work when you just feel totally drained.
And what about ashwagandha? It's everywhere right now.
Ashwagandha is more about promoting calm and clarity by mitigating the effects of stress hormones. When you're shopping for it, though, you want to be specific. Look for KSM-66 ashwagandha. It's a specific root extract that has really solid clinical trials behind it, dosed between 300 to 600 milligrams. That's why it's a bit more expensive, but the results are reliable.
And then, of course, the champion of alertness, caffeine. But we're talking about the optimized version, right? The classic caffeine plus L-theanine combo.
Yeah.
Is it still the gold standard?
It really is. It's just such an elegant solution to the main problem with caffeine. Caffeine blocks that sleepy signal, which is great, but it also triggers adrenaline. That's what gives you the jitters and the eventual crash. L-theanine, which is an amino acid, basically smooths out that adrenaline spike. It promotes these relaxing alpha brainwaves, creating what we call calm focus.
The holy grail.
It is. But the crucial detail is the ratio. You have to get the ratio right. You need a 2-to-1 ratio of L-theanine to caffeine. So say 200 milligrams of L-theanine with 100 milligrams of caffeine. If you get that ratio wrong, you just lose the synergy.
Okay, so we have all these tools: foundations, long-term builders, immediate boosters. How do we start putting them together? How do you personalize this?
And that's where the real power is. It's in the stack. And you can either buy a pre-made transparent product, or you can build it yourself with single ingredients for total control. For instance, if you're facing a massive project, you might want a deep work stack. A sample formula there would be citicoline, maybe 250 milligrams for that immediate energy, lion's mane, 500 milligrams, and macopa, 300 milligrams for that long-term support. And then top it off with 200 milligrams of L-theanine for that calm, tunnel vision focus.
Okay, but what about the opposite? A day where you just need a quick jolt to get going in the morning.
That's your quick alertness stack. Super simple. Low-dose caffeine, maybe 50 to 100 milligrams, paired with that 2-to-1 L-theanine, so 100 to 200 milligrams. And maybe a little bump of citicoline, 250 milligrams if you need that extra sharpness without going crazy on stimulants.
Perfect. And finally, for the person who realizes their focus problem is really a stress problem.
Right. That's the stress resilience and calm focus stack. This one is zero stimulant. It's built around the adaptogens. So you'd combine KSM 66, ashwagandha, maybe 300 to 600 milligrams with 200 milligrams of rhodiola to fight fatigue. And then you'd add a foundational B complex to make sure those neurotransmitter systems are fully supported against all that stress.
Now, looking ahead to 2025, our sources are pointing to some really big trends. What should people be watching for when they're actually shopping for this stuff?
The market is shifting in a really good way for consumers who know what to look for. There's a huge demand moving away from these high-dose caffeine bombs and toward clinically dosed stimulant-free blends. People want off the caffeine roller coaster. And this trend is all about two things: transparency and quality.
Okay, so when I'm reading a label, what's the big red flag I should be avoiding?
The vague proprietary blend, that's the number one thing to avoid. When a product just says, focus blend, 1,500 milligrams, but doesn't tell you how much of each ingredient is in there, you have to run. It could be 1,400 milligrams of filler for all you know. You need clear labeling, verifiable third-party testing, and precise milligram amounts for the key compounds. Transparency is everything in the 2025 market.
And that transparency is so critical, especially when you start combining these. Which brings us to the most important part. Safety. We have to talk about interactions.
Non-negotiable. This is not medical advice, and you must talk to a clinician if you are pregnant, breastfeeding, under 18, or on any chronic medication, full stop. And specific interactions are a real concern. For instance, ashwagandha can potentially alter the effects of thyroid medications. Omega-3s, which are so good for you, can impact blood clotting if you're taking them in high doses with anticoagulants. You have to treat these things with respect.
And do you need to take all of them continuously? Is there a risk of them, building up in your system?
Yes, some compounds definitely need to be cycled. Huperzine A is a great example. It's a potent compound that can accumulate. So most experts recommend short cycles, a few weeks on, a week off, and lower doses. But across the board, just listen to your body. Monitor your sleep, check for jitters, be your own scientist.
This has been incredibly useful. If we could boil everything down to one final takeaway, it seems to be this. The best approach is balanced. You have to balance your immediate needs, like that quick hit from a caffeine-theanine combo, with those long-term investments in your brain, like Bacopa and omega-3s.
Absolutely. And when you go to buy something, just remember those three words: transparency, clinical doses, and third-party testing. The sources are very clear that while these are powerful tools, the most reliable gains will always come from pairing them with the basics: sleep, nutrition, and movement.
And as you think about building your own strategy, here's one final thought to chew on. We learned that ingredients like Bacopa and lion's mane can take months to show their full effect. You're basically optimizing for your performance next season, but caffeine and citicoline work in under an hour. So does knowing that optimizing for future resilience change how you think about your daily stack choices right now? Are you just putting out today's fire, or are you building tomorrow's fortress?
Thanks for tuning in to the Cenario podcast. Don't forget to visit Cenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.